Jail Paralympian Oscar Pistorius will reportedly be eligible for parole in March 2023. News 24 reporting today that the Supreme Court of Appeal has amended its decision to increase the Blade Runner's sentence. That's after the judgment didn't take into account the 506 days he had already served behind bars. He's in prison for murdering his girlfriend Singabakho in 2013. Now, the department spokesperson Singabakho Nxumalo joins us now to discuss this matter further. Singabakho, thanks a lot for joining us this evening. Let's cut to the chase. Is it true that Oscar Pistorius will indeed be eligible for parole in March 2023?
As a department, we cannot confirm the month, the date and the year, as there are certain processes that must be followed. One thing, though, that we can state is that all inmates are eligible for parole consideration after having served the minimum required time.
So when will Oscar Pistorius' required minimum time be exactly?
That will mean you have to take the entire sentence and say what would be the minimum required time. That is like half of the sentence. And then out of that to say, then you've got to put together his profile. It has to go before the parole board. Then the parole board will look into it and see the reports from specialists such as psychologists, criminologists and social workers, and also check whether other processes such as victim offender mediation and victim offender dialogue has taken place. And after having studied all of that material, they will then make a decision, because parole boards are independent structures outside correctional services.
We'll talk a little bit about his profile, but for now, let's talk about these reports that claim that the Supreme Court, obviously the Supreme Court of Appeal, saying that it's amended its decision to increase the sentence after it emerged that the judge failed to take into account these 506 days already served. Can you then confirm that indeed they have to take those into account, and indeed you do know that as a result of this he will then serve, he's already served part of his sentence?
Okay, firstly, let me highlight that I don't talk on behalf of the Supreme Court of Appeal, but one thing that I can state is that it's important for the court order to state the resumption of the sentence. So in this case, we have received the order stating that we need to start calculating the sentence from the 6th of July 2016. Then that does make a difference when you look at the previous order, because it did not reflect that particular detail. So when we go through our own calculations, also looking at his correctional sentence plan, we need to factor all of this, because they do impact the eligibility for parole consideration. So as a department, we have received that, so it's part and parcel of what is before us. Now we need to then factor it in, do proper calculations, and when it's due for parole consideration, then he will go before the parole board, and then a decision will be taken on that. But for now, it is premature for us to say it will happen on this particular date and year.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the profile. Do you think he is indeed reformed?
It's a decision that gets taken by a parole board, but there's quite a number of other players involved and also processes. I've already alluded to the correctional sentence plan. How it works is that when an inmate is admitted, we then draw what we call a correctional sentence plan, looking at his needs and the areas that must be corrected. And then an inmate will have to sign to say, indeed, this is my correctional sentence plan, which will then draw, it's like a roadmap to say, as you start your sentence today, all the way until you finish, this is what you will need to follow. And also then once that has been done, then you also have then the specialists such as your social workers and psychologists who will also have to do their own assessments, because when the profile goes before the parole board, they need to check this correctional sentence plan and see if an inmate has followed that to the T, and also look at these reports by specialists. And if all of them says, no, this person indeed is ready to reintegrate back to society, then they'll make a decision. But I've already alluded to other processes such as victim offender mediation, because you will know that South Africa adopted for a victim-centered criminal justice system where voices of the victim must be heard as well. So they look in the entirety of, at all of these processes. Then thereafter.
But if I just may, Singabakho, just for the sake of time, these processes where we assess the offender, where we go through a psychological assessment, psychosocial assessment, it happens over a period of time. It's not just a consideration that is made when the individual is presenting themselves before the parole board. So over the period of time, as Correctional Services, you've had an opportunity to look at this individual and be able to grasp whether or not he's actually reformed or on his way to rehabilitation. So far, thus far, is he showing any form of rehabilitation?
That is not a decision that someone like me, or upon just looking at the inmates, can say, indeed, this person is on the road towards mending. Hence, you have specialists, playing that critical role. They have to continuously monitor the inmate. Even if they say they've done an assessment after a year, 2 years, they also have to indicate, to say, from when this person was admitted, all the way up until, let's say, the 5th or 4th year, to say, where is this person now? Are there any changes? This person, does he even admit to say, what I did, was wrong, I'm now a changed person, and what is the outlook, in terms of moving forward? So all of this, hence, then you need specialists in that particular area. And then from there, they make an informed decision, but eventually the parole board, will have the last call to say what is going to happen. But what I need to clarify, parole placement is not the end of it. If you are given 10 years, a 10-year sentence, because when you are placed out, you continue to serve that sentence. The only difference is that you are outside the correctional facility. Hence, you've got parole conditions, which you need to abide, by. Should you deviate from that, then there are consequences as well. Up until such time that your sentence expires, then you will know that, this is full reintegration. This person, has been rehabilitated. Hence, then you will see when the person goes before the parole board. If there are certain areas where parole board is not convinced that this person is rehabilitated, they do indicate to say this person must partake in perhaps in some programs, so that they are then satisfied that indeed this person is ready. But it's not something that Singabakho can say, no, this person has been with us for 13 years and this person is ready.
I'm sure that between ourselves and you, this is not the last time we have this conversation. We'll leave it there for this evening. The Correctional Services spokesperson, Singabakho Nxumalo.